Guys of a Certain Age is brought to you by no one. Absolutely no one. Except these dudes walking down memory lane. Now let's head to the studio to see what they misremember next.
It's the podcast that's kind of like money you find in your jeans. You didn't know you had it, and you're glad you found it. It's Guys of a Certain Age. Robbie Koblenz in studio alongside
Art Shirley.
And Jay Reed. I like that. That was good.
Do you not agree?
Yeah.
When you find money in your pockets, it's just like a happy day.
Yeah. Of course, as old as my jeans are, it could be like Confederate currency.
Which has no value
That's
whatsoever.
right. Is this Caesar on this coin? What's going on?
Wow, Caesar on the coin.
It's a peso.
Vote for.
Vote for
For peso.
Vote for peso.
Okay.
Peso little. So, how are you guys doing?
Local reference. Local cultural reference.
That's right. That's right. Half of our listeners, one of them is local. Hello, Mrs. Reed.
Yeah.
So we made it through the ice. We made it through the snow. We made it through the floods. All we need is fire.
Yeah.
Because we've seen, rain.
Yeah. Fire and rain.
Yeah. James
Ten
Taylor.
sunny
warm
days that we
today.
thought would never end.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it got to 70 degrees yesterday. So
Did it really?
It did. It's crazy. Wow. So Jay pointed something out. Jay, you want to say the pertinent information for today's show?
It's
The F word. It is.
Yeah. Hello, Mrs. Reed.
You'll get there.
okay. It's February,
And
and it's our birthday.
which one?
Our 5th.
Both of those are F words.
That's right. Okay. I was like, okay.
The look
Mrs.
on
Reed
Jay's
doesn't
face.
like F words. So
Any of
yes.
them?
Well, you
What
have
about
to be careful.
forgiveness? What about forgiveness?
That's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one.
I need to talk
maybe
about
we
that one.
maybe we need a little
Especially all the times you lied to your mom.
Facebook forgiveness. is what we
Facebook
need.
forgiveness.
Yeah, that would be
That's right.
great.
So
So,
yeah, our first episode
Yeah. Hey.
episode.
Fantastic.
dropped on February the 1st of 2019. So
Phenomenal.
This episode
Wait,
will
that's not
drop. No.
All right.
Okay, spell check.
I'm sorry, Jay. What were you saying?
Our first episode dropped on February 1st, 2019. So as this one drops somewhere around that time, you never know with our dropper in charge when it's going to drop, but it'll drop around there. And so that makes this sort of a special episode.
It does.
5th birthday at the beginning of our 6th year in season 1 of Guys of a Certain Age.
It's still season 1. It will forever be
that's
season
right.
1.
Okay, yeah.
Season 1, it'll be like episode 270 or something along those lines.
How crazy is that we've...
That is really crazy.
Yeah, I listen to other podcasts and they say, "Oh, I did 140 episodes." I'm like, Psh,
That's
nothing.
That's
right.
nothing.
That's
Nothing
right.
at all. So we need to decide where we're going to celebrate 300th if we're still talking at this point.
Oh, that's right. Well, what about? I know of 2 places we might could do it.
Yeah. What hilarious! Art walks in and it's like, and Jay goes, "Hello, Art," and Art goes, "Are we still speaking?" So it's like, is there something that happened when the last time you guys cut an episode that I don't know about?
Yeah, there is. We won't talk about it.
Did you cut it out?
No.
What happens in
It's
the
there.
studio?
Stays in the studio.
Until
Unless
it
it's
drops.
recorded.
That's
Unless
right.
it's recorded.
No, Jay was very businesslike in his greeting to me, so I.
He wasn't sure what to do.
I think he takes us more seriously than you and I do.
Well, that wouldn't be hard. There's this low bar.
Yeah, low bar, but I mean, he has notes. He writes the synopses every week.
Yeah, he does.
I spent like 2 hours last night preparing for
Gosh.
today's episode. I'll explain more of that later.
And I have not spent any time whatsoever. So
I had a blast.
Good.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
Excellent. All right, let's jump into Geeks. Art, you want to go first?
Yes, certainly. Breaking news, or at least as we read this, breaking news, Jon Favreau is set to direct the new Star Wars film, The Mandalorian and Grogu. I had thought maybe it would be Dave Filoni doing that, but Jon Favreau is going to do it. I think that's a great, it's in good hands.
Yes, it is.
Jon Favreau has brought us several movies, Swingers, but also,
Chef. Iron Man.
Iron Man is what I was going to get to. Kind of kickstarted the whole MCU thing with Iron Man. I think maybe this could be a chance for kind of a rebirth of the Star Wars cinematic universe.
I like the idea of him directing. I think the name could be have a little more oomph.
The Mandalorian and Grogu doesn't grab you?
No, it does
doesn't.
not.
It sounds like a buddy film, doesn't it?
It does. Maybe like Butch Cassidy in the Sundance.
Thelma and Louise, Mandalorian and Grogu. Yeah.
Doesn't kind of
Maybe they'll
roll
come
off.
up with something better.
I would hope
but,
they would come up with something.
Maybe there'll be a tagline. I don't know what it would be. I have nothing.
Space,
We need to work on that.
no one can hear you. do something. I don't know.
Let's keep working.
I'm rewatching Alien, by the way. I've never watched Alien all the way through.
You got to be kidding me.
I had the picture book, back, we've talked about this before, back when they would take stills from the movie, and it was basically a poor man's graphic novel. I had that, which was great. I read the novelization, but I've never seen Alien.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Boy, I tell you what, the money they spent on set design, crazy.
Yeah.
Just absolutely crazy.
It's really, really good. Have you seen it?
It's been a long time. I think I have seen the first one, but it's been forever.
Yeah. I need to rewatch it.
Aliens, though, is just so much fun.
Yeah.
Game over, man. Game over.
That's a perfect example because both of those movies are great movies. Both of those movies are very different movies. And it was, to me, it was a brilliant idea to change the way that moves. Don't try to recreate what Ridley Scott did in Alien because you're not going to get there.
No.
Do something completely different, and like you said, it's a lot of fun. A lot of people prefer it to Alien, but it's just they're just two great movies.
Did either you
they
guys
go great together?
just like peanut butter and chocolate? Yeah. Did either of you watch Prometheus?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you?
Probably not.
No.
Yeah, I've watched everything in the Alien and Predator cinematic universe. I'll keep saying cinematic universe for the rest
It really
of the
is.
day.
Even though the new Alien series that's about to come out, there's a TV series that will retcon and take the Predator out of it. So, though I need to go back and rewatch Prometheus to see the engineers, what they left.
Yeah.
So anyway, pretty fascinating stuff. So, all right, my geek of the week. Boy, speaking of founding money that you didn't know was there. So Tom Hollander was on Seth Meyers' show this last week. Tom Hollander, who was he was in Pirates of the Caribbean. He was in The Kingsman, Bird Box, Bohemian Rhapsody. Obviously, I'm reading off
Bohemian Rhapsody. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Pride and Prejudice, The Night Manager. He was great in The Night Manager.
I think everybody with a British accent was in Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah,
I think that was a requirement, right?
Yeah. And I would recommend you go back and watch The Night Manager again if you haven't seen. If you've seen it,
I've not
rewatch
seen
it.
that.
Oh, it's great.
Is it a series?
It's a limited series. It's got Tom Hollander. It's got Loki.
What's it
Hiddleston.
on? What?
I don't remember. It was an AMC series at one point.
Okay,
but I think I watched.
I think it may be on Hulu, which we're back with Hulu again for a while. So
reunited,
and
it feels so good. so Tom Hollander got Tom Holland's Avenger Endgame bonus. So there was a performance bonus that Tom Holland got. Holland and Hollander were represented by the same agency, and there was a small slip.
Wow.
I wonder how small it was. Did they give it a number?
So, no, they didn't. Tom Hollander said, once he saw the bonus itself, he realized what a literal huge mistake it was. Quote, it was an astonishing amount of money, and it was not his salary. It was his first box office bonus.
Wow.
Not the whole box office, the first one.
Oh, yeah.
And it was more money than I've ever. It was a 7-figure sum, and he was 20 or something. But that's showbiz.
Wow. Now, Tom Hollander has not been in the MCU.
No, okay. He didn't. He's like the only person.
He's looking to get in it now.
Maybe it's a good idea.
That's right.
But can you imagine that 7 figures, millions of dollars showing up, and you're like, oh crap, what happened?
Yeah.
I would have moved that to a savings account immediately to start drawing interest.
Yeah,
that they
and then just give the money.
payments.
Just give the money back. Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
The Caymans, the Jaymans.
Yeah. No,
that's what he would call it when he bought
That's
it.
right.
Oh, that was great. That was great. But I've never mistakenly gotten millions of dollars. Have you?
No, I have not.
As far as you know, no.
Yeah.
As far as I know,
I'm sure had we would all still be doing this, right?
I do share a name with a famous actor. However, I don't think there was a big box office bonus for Smokey and the Bandit.
Or North Dallas 40.
Right.
Was Jerry Reed? No, that was Mac Davis.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but you didn't share a talent agent with them either.
Oh, I thought you were going to stop at talent. There was a pregnant pause there.
Before.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Maybe you two will not be speaking at the end of this episode. You never know. You never know. Singing? Yeah, every time I leave you two alone, you sing.
Yeah.
It's just horrible. Yeah. So, all right, Jay, what's your geek of the week?
All right, just to share, we have mentioned her already, but the mother of the show and the conscience of our show, of the podcast.
The moral compass, if you will.
Of the show, Mrs. Reed. She heard, we're having a special guest today, and we'll get to that in a minute, but in honor of that special guest, she shared a story with me and a picture. I wish we could show the picture, but we're audio. So, anyway, the text reads as follows. It says, I love Tarzan. There was a little area of jungle by the plant, and the plant was where her dad worked, where we would play Tarzan after we had seen a Saturday afternoon Tarzan movie. The first dog I had was named Cheetah.
That's
after
great.
Tarzan's chimp. She said, we used to see who could do the best Tarzan yell, but Carol Burnett had us all beat.
She did a great
So
one.
I had forgotten all about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Mom, Mrs. Reed, Mama, I don't call her Mom, I call her Mama. Anyway,
We don't. We call her Mrs. Reed.
Yeah, you do.
In fear.
Right. But anyway, she sent a little picture, and she's not dressed as Tarzan in the picture, thankfully. She is dressed as a cowboy with her dog, Cheetah.
Gotcha.
From the Tarzan movie. So I thought that was
That's
a nice
great.
little,
I love that story. Yeah,
nice
that's good.
little story. Mm-hmm. And today, being our birthday, so we have a special guest. And
This
after the
is
break,
your birthday. Happy birthday to you.
This is a Cheech and Chong version.
so Robbie is singing.
Hey.
After he just
I would not call it singing. No. That was a
As we enter year 6.
That was a gruntled rendition.
All right, so to celebrate our birthday, we're going to talk again. Is this our first return guest or
No, we've had another return.
couple?
Yes.
Okay, so
yeah. George Haybide has been,
that's
regular.
true. That's true. That's true. But one of the few return guests,
One of the
we've had,
proud.
Yeah.
Scott Tracy Griffin, who is known as the Tarzan Expert on Call, will be joining us after the break.
And we're back in studio. 3 have turned into 4. We've got a special guest alongside. Art, you want to tell the people who this be?
Yeah, we have a return visit from Tracy Griffin, who lives out in L.A., I believe is right, out in California.
Yep, Santa Monica.
Santa Monica, okay. And he is the Tarzan expert that we've had on before, Edgar Rice Burroughs expert. I'll let him tell a bit more just about what he's done in that realm. He's originally from the Starkville area, and so is back here to visit, and we're always glad to have him on the show. Just a lot of worthwhile, a world of knowledge on this topic.
Yes, sorry, George Abide, you're not the only returning guest.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. But Tracy, glad to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here. It's always fun.
I'm going to tell you, you made Jay's day when you put on your resume or whatever you've got up that you've cited this, that you were on this show. Mm-hmm. Jay texts us like at 11 o'clock at night. Hey guys, we're famous. It's like
stalker alert.
Yeah, stalker alert. I mean,
Speaking of stalking,
I said, finally someone who we're not married to or related to that actually listens to the show, even though my wife doesn't listen to the show.
I think that page has been seen by a few dozen people.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we're on the right track.
We'll take anything we can.
I think our numbers jumped a whole lot when you started sharing it on some of your social media channels. You're like, hey, there we go.
There you go. There you
Good
go.
to know I make a difference.
There you go. So you've done a ton of stuff, Tracy. You're the Edgar Rice Burroughs expert at large, but I want to talk to you a little bit about your acting career. Jay sends us a picture last night of you as a stunt person on, what was it, CSI or
NCIS?
NCIS. I get all those alphabet shows mixed up. So how much acting have you done through the years?
Well, I did a play with Mrs. Warren, Vicki Warren at Starkville Academy.
Yeah.
Loved it, wanted to do more. Got involved in drama at Millsaps. I always played sports, and to me that was sort of an extension of it, the whole, performing for a crowd. And so love theater, have been part of a couple of theater groups out in Beverly Hills, California. And, there's no money in theater, but it's a passion. And have done a variety of things. I guess never really broke in as a, made it a career. I lived off of it for a few years. I had a Honda commercial that was televised, and
we got to find that.
Good residuals from that.
Back in the day when residuals off commercials could be pretty lucrative at times.
Yes.
Not saying you were rolling in the dough, but
funny story. I get cast in this commercial. I go on my lunch break. I'm working in the corporate world, working as a management consultant. And, I have my headshots out there, and I get a call for an audition, so I take a long lunch break. And then the next week I get a call for another audition. I take a lunch break. And then I get back from that audition and I have a call back on the first one. And I'm like, hey, I can't make it, because, I can only take one long lunch a day, right? So they're like, no, you need to be there. So I said to my boss, personal emergency, gotta go. I went over, I walk in, they said, try these sunglasses on. Take them on, take them off.
Yeah.
This is the guy, right? So they cast me. So, a couple of weeks later, we shoot the commercial down in Long Beach, which is about 30 minutes, maybe an hour or more in rush hour traffic from LA. So my call time is 6, right? I get off at 5. I race down there. I'm late to my call time, right? And they're about to replace me, but I get there. We shoot all night. I go home the next morning, take a shower, go into work not having slept, worked all day, and I made more off of that commercial than I made in a year at my job.
Wow! Oh my gosh!
That's the
one
kind
night,
of gigs we need.
Two long lunches in one night. So that's when I left my job. I had 10 years at the company in the corporate world, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give the acting thing a try. I did some print modeling and stuff. I got some IBM. I did an IBM campaign. Sometimes I put those photos up on my Facebook page. They're funny. And a few other things. I did a lot of background, stand-in, photo doubling. The thing Jay was asking about. I'm 44 years old, and I get cast what would be in the old days called a featured extra, meaning you're an extra or background, as they prefer to be called. And but I'm intrinsic to the storyline. A lot of times I did that. I was the aide, I was the chauffeur, I was the bodyguard, I was usually the guy standing by the principal. But so I'm going to be the murder victim of the week on NCIS. And so I go and I get fitted, and they treat you like a king. And when we film the death scene, what it happens, it's the opener. I don't know, you know the opener scene when the episode opens, it's called Squall. And there's a storm at sea, and they look out on the ship, and there's a dead body on the deck, right? And the dead body's being lashed and rolled around in the water, and the guys have to suit up in their gear and go out on the deck and bring this dead body in, and it's the ship's doctor, right? So we shoot this scene at 2-3 a.m. in Port Hueneme. They have I think it's a destroyer. They have a ship that's docked there that doesn't go out to sea, but they train on it. The naval guys train on it. So we shoot on this, and they put me out on the deck. They put a wetsuit. This is February now in LA, and it was hovering right around 38, 39 degrees.
Wow.
So they put a wetsuit on me underneath my BDUs, my uniform. And we go out there, and they have me lay on the deck, and they had this huge 600-gallon tank of water. And they're going to dump this so it washes over me. And they're hitting me with fire hoses, right? So, and it's ice cold. It's ice cold.
This is the Navy or the CIA.
This is like waterboarding. It was.
That's what I was thinking.
So I'm all curled up dead, and they.
Then you literally are.
Right, action. And here comes the flood of 600 gallons of ice cold water and the fire hoses. It hit me, and I curled up like a bug. It was just instinctive. I just went into the fetal position. And, cut in the direction like, you can't move, you're dead. So I'm like, okay.
I'm about to be. Yeah.
So I managed to 2 or 3 more takes, I managed to, I guess, effectively play dead for them and not go into shock. So in between, actually before the scene, the stunt coordinator comes to me and he said, we're going to upgrade you to stunts.
Oh.
So I'm 44 years old, and I am now a novice stuntman, right? And stunt comes, that comes with the base pay for a speaking role, and it comes with residuals and everything. So I said, great. So after they filmed the freezing scene, the assistant director, who didn't know that the stunt coordinator had put in for my upgrade, comes to me and says, we're going to give you a principal, contract for this. I said, in Hollywood, you've always got to be thinking. I said, I really appreciate that. I'm on a stunt contract. Can you give me a credit?
Yeah.
So I negotiated for the credit. So at the end scene, I got the credit.
Oh, that's great. Really smart.
So it was fun. It was 8 days work on a stunt contract, and that's my closest thing I have to a claim to fame on screen.
Well,
wow,
now,
that's really good.
Now, I've got your IMDb pulled up here. Now, you play basketball at Millsaps, right?
Yep.
So, according to IMDb, you earned your SAG membership, Screen Actors Guild membership, because of a scene in Bedazzled.
Yeah.
With Brendan Fraser and Orlando Jones.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
That was fun.
That was 2000, right?
Yeah. I believe it was January. I just got back from Christmas break, and this was back, early days of the internet when we still had the trade magazines, Drama Log and Backstage, and I used to peruse those and go to auditions and stuff. And a lot of the stuff there doesn't pay that well, but they had an open casting call for basketball players. I'm like, okay, I can do this. I'm whatever I was at that time, 35 years old.
Yeah.
And I was within the age range. So we go and they put us through all these drills. And it's like, they hit the ground running. They had guys who were ex-pros and D1. And I was this little guy, I'm 5'11" and 35 years old. And I was barely keeping. I was so sore the next day.
Yeah.
Didn't hear from them for a couple of months, and just, it's like an audition. You do it and you forget about it, And they call me up and you've been cast. What it was a pickup game. Mm-hmm. And if you've seen the movie, Brendan Fraser makes a deal with the devil, who happens to be played by Elizabeth Hurley.
Yeah.
And
I remember that now.
Yeah. It's a remake of the 60s film. And he has basically 7 fantasy lives. And one of them, he's a professional basketball player. And the way they tip it off that he becomes a basketball player, he's a tech geek. And he goes, his teammates are all playing a pickup game, his work friends. Yeah. And he tries to go to the game, and we're playing pickup ball, and he comes in, hey, guys, I want to play. And they're supposed to hit him in the face with the basketball and, mock him and tease him. And that's what sort of generates the fantasy to be a pro player. Uh-huh. And Norm Nixon was the technical advisor.
Who was a retired Laker, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Former Laker Norm Nixon, and was married to Debbie Allen for a long time, the choreographer. And so he was technical advisor, and he was playing with us, and Orlando Jones. Funny story about Orlando, I'll tell you.
7 up yours.
Yeah, and Orlando's dad was a coach, and Orlando actually got a college scholarship in basketball to was it Florida State, somewhere in Florida, one of the D1 schools, and had a knee injury and couldn't do it. So we're playing pickup. It's fun, and and again, in Hollywood, it's always a negotiation both ways. So I'm leaving, and an AD runs up to me, and the way it worked then, you get Taft-Hartley, to be in the union. If they can't find someone with a particular skill, they can hire a non-union, and then you get eligible for union. So this is what gets me eligible for the union. I'm all happy. I'm on a union contract for the first time. I'm leaving, and the second AD or the second or someone really low on the totem pole, maybe even a PA, runs up to me. He's like, we gave you the wrong voucher. You're supposed to be non-union. I was like, nope, I was booked. I was booked on union, and I wasn't going to give him back. There was no, I wasn't going to let him rescind this from me. I hopped in my car and took off.
So you got your union voucher, and there you go.
Yeah.
So you still.
So I need to rewatch that movie.
Yeah. Well, it was according to
my
IMDb.
Scene was cut.
It was cut.
I missed that. Okay.
That's the kicker too. Is I didn't get in the movie.
So you have to buy the DVD and watch the deleted scenes.
scenes.
Maybe I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the DVD, but it's out there somewhere. The footage.
Everything's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
So, so what else have you done from an acting standpoint? We've got your NCIS. We've got your Bedazzled. I mean, any fun stories from Hollywood?
Not too many I want to tell.
Okay. He's waiting for the book.
I still want to work in that town.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I thought if that someday I could write a book about my experiences when I'm not worried about who I piss off or whatever, because
sorry, Mr. Reed.
because you see every side of it, from you see prima donna behavior and bad behavior, but you also see people who are salt of the earth. in the A list, and so it's just an interesting thing. I was a background in probably between 5 and 600 films and TV shows.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
That was that many.
Those are not all on your IMDb page.
No, generally you don't put background on your IMDb.
Okay.
I do keep a spreadsheet, you know, and whenever I get a residual or anything, it goes on the spreadsheet. So I have it all logged.
Okay.
And a while back, one of my friends in one of my acting groups posted they have declared a lady who's been in the most films and TV shows ever, and she had like 1,900.
Oh wow!
And she was an extra in England, and her husband was an accountant or whatever, and so they logged everything she did. So with 1,900, you know, I got quite a few to go. I don't know if I'll ever match her, but yeah, there are people who you know, back in the days, you know, could make a living. You can make a living from being background.
Sure, absolutely.
And you know, you work a 14-hour day and get paid several $100s, and you get bumps and upgrades and whatnot. But that's pretty much gone away now. You know, I kind of aged out of it, and you know, especially with AI coming. You know, we just signed an acting contract with AI, and you know, the bit parts and the extras are probably going to go away.
Yep.
That's going to be
computer generated,
artificial people walking around in the background.
So, are you still a member of the guild?
Yeah. I got to get back, and we've got our SAG awards, and so I've got a ton of screeners coming in, and you know, it's usually an orgy of viewing.
Yeah.
I don't go see a lot of these films in the theaters because I get them all, you know, either streaming or courtesy DVDs. So when I get back to LA, I got a lot of viewing to do.
So does everybody in the union watches all of the films? Is that how it works?
For the SAG Awards, yeah. Well, I mean, depending on how involved you are, and but that's, you know, that's a big perk for us, cool, is to see all these and vote on them, and
how many films are we talking about? How many do they narrow them down to the ones that are?
Yeah, it's like the Oscars. There's 5 or 6 nominees in each category.
Yeah, okay.
You have lead actor and supporting actor in drama and comedy, film and TV, stunt crew, and ensemble.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not as many categories as the Oscars, and we're looking at the performances. So we don't get to see, you know, the big budget special effects movies. We don't get screeners for those. We get the more serious, performance-driven movies.
Yeah, the award-worthy pieces for the most part. So what do you do with all those screeners when they're done? You just put them in your library?
We're supposed to shred them. Yeah, so that's the official thing, is they get shredded.
Yeah, they get shredded. They do.
You'd never share them with your family. Never.
Yeah. Years ago, I used to go to this thing called Editor's Retreat, and so it was for film, TV editors, what have you. And Arthur Schmidt Jr. was our keynote speaker. Mr. Arthur was was Zemeckis' primary editor, and I got to have dinner with he and his wife. There's like 5 of us, and he just talked about how they moved from Hollywood. I guess they moved to Pasadena. I can't remember. And so he was a member of the Editors Guild, and he just kept getting screeners, even though his membership had lapsed. And it's like, of course you're going to get screeners because you've won an Oscar for editing, even if your membership is lapsed. Who's going to be the stupid mail boy to not send it to Arthur Schmidt Jr., you know? So, you know, you may be getting screeners forever, Tracy.
Well, what I want to be is on the nominating committee.
Yeah,
because then you get to see them all year long.
Yeah.
It's like every week, you know, and they have the screenings in the DGA theater, and, you know, you go with the DGA and the WGA, the Director and Writer Guilds, and they have screenings all year long to choose the films that will be nominated. So that's a nice
that
perk
would be
there.
neat.
We've talked a little bit about the strikes through the last year. Did you get on the picket line with SAG at all?
I confess I did not. I have not worked as an actor since COVID, since 2019.
Gotcha.
So I was there with them in spirit. It was, you know, if I were actively working and pursuing the work, I absolutely would have been there. But you know, I've primarily been working as a writer and stuff the last few years. So, you know, I did not go out in the hot sun and picket, but certainly I, you know, carried their flag, their standard into my private conversations and relationships and my online, you know, conversations. I'm very much in favor of Screen Actors Guild and what they certainly attempt to accomplish for the writers and the actors.
Not to put you on the spot, but I'm assuming you voted to ratify the last agreement. Or not, it doesn't matter. What did you think of the last agreement because of the AI provisions in it? I mean, the actors did give up a fair amount of concessions to the
absolutely,
studios.
and I have no qualms in telling you I didn't support it. I didn't. I generally, from where I am in the Hollywood strata, I generally vote no on contracts because I always think you can always do better. See, the thing is, if a contract passes with a 90% approval, that emboldens the opposition.
Yeah.
If it were to pass with a 56%, support, they're going to think, hey, if we ask for too much next time, these guys may strike.
Yeah.
You want to convince the employers that you're always on the verge of a strike, that you are just about, that you're not happy and you want more and you're not being treated fairly. That's sort of standard. And coming from where I was, like I said, I'm not making above scale. The union exists for the scale guys, the celebrities and the people like that. They make above scale.
Absolutely.
They support the union out of a sense of this is where I came from and solidarity and so forth with my fellow actor. But it doesn't affect them. This affects me. I may not work again because of the AI. I'm not giving up my image to be scanned and used in perpetuity.
Yeah.
Same thing with my writing. You will not find samples of my writing online. I don't write for free, and do, I do my social media posts, but you got to buy my book or go find one of my Cinefantastique magazines in a back issue bin or something. I don't, give away my creative capital for free.
Yeah.
And so, no, it may be the end of background with this AI. Because they are scanning people, and there's no provision for you to say no. They can always say you have to. We're only hiring people who say yes.
That's right. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Just this is a very small in comparison to what you're doing, but I'll post cartoons and comics and stuff on my Facebook page. That's my main way to share them. And then you'll see something later that somebody, I've actually had this happen where somebody's posted it and removed my name. And
you caught me.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Robbie.
Yeah.
But no, but you'll see it and somebody will point out and say, hey, this is this person's work. And again, that's really my only outlet, so it's okay. But I see a bunch of artists, some artists that you and I both follow, that will post stuff, and somebody will put something out that's been altered just very slightly or claiming it's their own. And a lot of times, fortunately, people are calling them out for it. But you wonder how many times it's not happening, and how many people are presenting stuff. It's one thing to do it on social media is bad enough, but are doing it in a professional realm and trying to pass this stuff off as their own. Yeah,
it's kind of an honor if it's just a fan and I love this stuff. But you see pros do it, and you see people trying to take credit, or not give you proper credit, and it's wrong.
And I will say, I've had more experiences where people have posted it and either tagged me on it and go, I don't know who this is, and somebody will say, oh, this is who this, and they they'll say, we're we'll become friends, or we'll follow each other, and then that works out pretty well. So there's more of that than the not. But I certainly see where you're coming from.
I've had footage of mine taken and used, and I've had there was an organization here who took some of my stock footage that they did not purchase rights for, and I had to threaten to sue them, and they ended up paying. So yeah, exactly. I've got a particular drone shot of Starkville that's like, everybody uses that drone shot for Starkville. And I should have never, I let the state tourism agency use it, but I didn't put any specifications on when is that ending or what have you. And so,
I may have shared that. I shared some footage.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I picked it up probably, I think it was off Starkville Development or somewhere.
Yeah. So if it's going over the Cotton District, during a Cotton District Arts Festival, that's my stuff from about 7 or 8 years ago.
This was Main Street to the new City Hall. So
I think that's yours.
Yeah, it's probably mine too.
Okay.
So
anyway,
we'll have to find that and give you credit.
Yeah, there you go.
But speaking of copyright public domain, we talked earlier about Steamboat Willie being out. Now, a lot of the Edgar Rice Burroughs things are they in public domain now? Given when they were created? Okay, so
Burroughs, like Zorro, like Disney, you have a split situation there. Some of the stuff is still in copyright and some is in public domain.
Okay.
And so that causes a lot of questions and what can you do and speculation. I don't know if you guys read, a lot of interesting blogs and stuff came out the first week of January or late December with the Steamboat Willie. This is what's really, that has really drawn more attention to public domain than anything recently.
Yeah, because it's certainly not the first known character. It may be the best known character, but people think, oh well, I can use Mickey Mouse now and that's not the case. That's not what is entered public domain now.
You can use Steamboat Willie from that first cartoon.
Yeah. I think I read or saw something last night when I was looking at the Tarzan stuff that Burroughs maybe licensed the character but not the story. Is there a difference there in some of the things that he allowed to be taken?
Yeah, well, the thing is, people, I still get people, and you mentioned Disney earlier, who they see the Disney Tarzan and think, oh, Disney still has some claim to it. That contract ran for 10 years and it's gone. It's done.
Yeah.
Disney no longer has that. Disney no longer has John Carter. So what you have is with Tarzan, you have 110 years, 112 years of all these different companies that have different rights. So it can be very convoluted. To speak to your question, there were 8 silent films, and they all were allegedly based on the novels. If you've read these novels, there's these fantastic scenarios that you could not have filmed in the silent era or even the pre-CGI era.
Yeah.
And so that was the deal with MGM, is he was fed up. He'd had 8 movies allegedly based on his novel. He wasn't happy with them. He wasn't getting paid what he thought he should be. So he told MGM, you can have the character, but don't mess with my novels. Just take the character. That's why it's in the movie, it's Jane Parker. In the book, she's Jane Porter.
Okay.
They weren't allowed to use elements from the novels. So MGM, and in hindsight, what that did is it's sort of split Tarzan's identity. He has this sort of split personality. You have the Tarzan of the novels, who was this, he went to England, he reclaimed his Greystoke title. He was well educated, he was literate, he was well spoken. He became educated, and then went back to the jungle. Versus, the Me, Tarzan, You, Jane version that MGM was. So their version actually became, because it was film, and that's the medium of the day once, certainly by the talkie era. The Johnny Weissmuller version, I think, for many, many years overshadowed the literary version. And we've sort of gone back to, with The Legend of Tarzan in 2016.
That's what I was going to say. That was one that I really felt like the Tarzan of the books to me.
Yeah. They incorporated elements in Tarzan. Again, he's gone to England. He's lived there a few years. He's gotten his Greystoke estate, and they incorporated elements from a number of the novels on those. So.
Which one was that?
This is the one that came out 10 years ago?
2016. Alexander Skarsgård, Margot Robbie.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers' last Tarzan movie. Yeah.
I remember the Christopher Lambert 1980
Greystoke.
The Legend of Tarzan. So
the jungle sequence on that, if you've read the books, the jungle sequence tracks right along. I know,
it's
novel.
right. The first half is, you're saying this is just like the books.
And that's Robert Towne, who wrote Chinatown, had 3 Oscar nominations. He wrote it, and he was supposed to direct it, and so he just went scene by scene, and it's just the original screenplay is wonderful. His screenplay ends when they reach the trading post.
Okay.
He didn't write the 3rd act because that was his leverage. I have to direct this film, and then I'll give you the 3rd act. And so, the film was taken away from him and given to Hugh Hudson, on the heels of
Chariots of Fire.
Right. And so Hugh and his writer did the English sequence, which, nothing to do with Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Not a bad sequence, not bad, but it just why not stick with the book, because the book is so much better.
Yeah.
And like you said, I remember sitting in the theater and going, oh my gosh, this looks like what I've had in my head.
Yes. Yes. And that, Towne has always said that is his great, here's a guy with all these Oscar nominations, and one of the greatest screenwriters Hollywood has ever produced. He says his greatest creative heartbreak was that he didn't get to direct Greystoke.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
And it seems like there's a lot of regret and heartbreak in Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff. The fact that, the Disney had John Carter, which is a Princess of Mars, and that they got Star Wars after that. And once that happened, they didn't market this movie. They changed the title to something that was, not at all indicative of what the story was going to be. The movie itself, I think, works pretty well. I think it's a good movie, and certainly a better movie than I ever thought we'd see. But there could be so much more.
Did you like John Carter, the Disney version?
I had mixed feelings.
Yeah.
parts of it I love, like with the Tharks, the hatchery scene, and the little babies. That was great. That's right from the books. We had a screening. We had a Burroughs gathering out there, and we had a private screening for this movie. And so they screen it, and afterwards it was silent.
Yeah.
Everybody would, there wasn't this roar of applause. I think everybody was kind of like me. They were kind of taking it in, contemplating. I expected it just from what I had seen before, and I thought it would track closer to the books. I was surprised, with the blue goo, the nanotechnology or whatever, and the Therns had almost magical powers, and it deviated from the books farther than I thought. But there are parts of it that I love, and I will say that as a guy who grew up, reading and rereading these books, the John Carter, I like it more upon repeated viewings. It grows on me.
Yeah, I rewatched it not too long ago and enjoyed it for what it is. Now, I don't have the attachment to the property that you two have got.
Yeah, I mean, I've said before, my favorite book and one of the books that kind of instilled in me a love of reading is the first Tarzan book, Tarzan of the Apes. I just fell into that book. It was just, it really became something that I was obsessed with, and I've read most, if not all, of the other Tarzan books. But there's something about John Carter that really kind of captured me more so even than Tarzan. And I think because I had not been familiar with it, I had known Tarzan more from the Ron Ely series. So I was familiar with an articulate Tarzan, but had no preconceptions about John Carter other than maybe seeing some Frazetta work, which, I need to read this.
Yeah. Sorry, Mrs. Reed.
That's right.
Yeah.
But that's one thing we I know we talked about last time. Talk about again is that we've got these properties that have been adapted to different degrees. A mutual friend of ours, Jack Elliott, and Tracy and I have talked about the Doug McClure stuff. Is there a property other than maybe some of those that are better known or that have been attempted before that you would like to see, that you think it might lend itself well to maybe the streaming services or something? Because we feel like the technology's there, and I think they can produce whatever is in there. The characters and creatures that Edgar Rice Burroughs came up with, I think, can be produced convincingly now, even on a budget, the streaming budget, so.
Especially with the ideas of being able to do the holographic wraparound, not holographic, but the immersive LED wraparound where you can project anything on.
Yeah.
Well, I've always said, Tarzan is my favorite character. I think he's really a nuanced character, and he has an arc in the novels. And Barzoom is my favorite world, the world of John Carter of Mars. But there's one property that I really had an affinity for that I just love. It's just, to me, a very romantic world, and that's the Moon series, the Moon trilogy.
And that's one that most people don't know about. I mean, some people may go as deep as, well, we've talked about Pellucidar and Caspek. They may know that, if not only from the movies that were made. Carson of Venus, I think, was one you mentioned. But the Moon series is not one that a lot of people remember.
Right, it was written as a trilogy, and it's interesting because each novel is, and I don't want to spoil it too much, but we have to sort of talk about it. It's 3 novellas, and each one is sort of a different field genre. He actually wrote the middle one first, and Burroughs was very patriotic. He was just like a super patriot, loved America. He felt like the American system had helped him rise up from this guy who was this itinerant guy who could not find work and keep a job to, becoming this, multimillionaire from his creations. And so he loved America. He was very patriotic. And he saw in 1922 or so the menace that communism posed. So the Red Hawk is the middle one, and it's really an anti-communist sort of thing. And what what he posits is that America's been taken over by aliens, and they've implemented communism, and they've sort of their communism has destroyed manufacturing and trade and commerce to the point where we're living in a feudal state. So it's like the Middle Ages in America. And of course, he has the hero who rises up against the alien invaders and leads the it's sort of the thing we've seen in so many franchises, but he couldn't sell it because of the political angle. They're like, no, we don't want to touch politics in the magazines. So he went back and he wrote a prequel, and this was the standard, Sword and Planet, space opera where the shipload of guys are going to John Carter's Mars. They're going to try and do an expedition to Mars, and the rocket ship gets waylaid and goes into the moon. There's an interior world of the moon, and a whole lost civilization and everything. And then the final episode, The Red Hawk, of course, is set into the future after the revolt in Chicago. The Red Hawk is set in Southern California, and the Americans have further devolved. Now they're living like American Indians, like Native Americans, and that's their level of technology, but they're still fighting these alien invaders. And so it's just a great centuries-long story, epic story, that spans, different civilizations and the alien menace and the sort of the political angle. And it's, above all, it's heroic fiction.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of potential.
And he was a great world builder too. I mean, he could, like you said, Barsoom, but all the different cultures and societies, whether it's the Great Apes Society or whatever it is, just was incredible the detail and thought he put into that thing.
Yeah, a lot of specificity. He would create languages.
Yeah.
And even written languages, for the Venus books you mentioned. He created a written language for the Venus books.
That's impressive. I see here where there's a centennial edition of The Moon Maid coming out. So for $350, you can get your lettered collection. Okay. It's one of 600, Jay. I'm pointing at Jay. Jay's our resident collector.
Okay.
You name it, he's got one of them.
Well, I don't have everything because I did look on eBay this week, and I was curious. Do you have any of the trading cards, the Tarzan trading cards?
I have the Jesco series. I have the Ely series.
Okay. What year? Because I was looking like there's a set that just came out, or in recent years that like you can get the set of 55 for $12 on eBay, and it looks like comic covers almost.
Oh, it's probably Dynamite stuff.
I forget who did. It wasn't Dynamite, but yeah, it was a vendor that did those.
It's a funny little name of the series, but then there's several from like 1966, maybe Banner, Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Now those are like $250 for the whole collection.
Yeah, I got mine years ago when they were like a lot more affordable.
Right.
But yeah, I forget the name of the company, but you're right. There was one, and they did.
There's one in England too.
Classic comic comedies. They've done a number. They did 3D cards tied in with the Tarzan movies. I mean, you could spend a lot of money and build collections. Cigarette cards.
There were some from Sweden, I think. There was quite a variety.
Yeah, they had
at least in individual cards.
They had those Panini sticker cards in Europe, and they never released them here. The Filmation, the cartoon from the 70s, they had a series that was released in Europe. I'd love to have those because those are nice. But
that's kind of my main collections are cards, and so I looked that up, and I was kind of fascinated that of the range. I mean, even the $11 set would be fun to see. But anyway.
Well, you remember back in the 90s, early 90s, when the cards really blew up, non-sport trading cards. And there were even magazines, multiple magazines.
Thank you,
cards.
Magic the Gathering.
Yeah. And so they used to sell singles at Comic Cons. And I would go through and I would pull all the Frazettas. And so I have a pretty extensive collection of the more modern stuff, Frazetta cards, Boris Vallejo cards.
Boris Vallejo, yeah.
I have a couple of notebooks full of just the Burroughs covers in trading card form.
Wow.
All right, we're at 35 minutes. Anything else anybody wants to ask Tracy before we go off for another hour of talking all this fascinating stuff?
What are you working on right now?
What am I working on right now? I'm researching several. I'm always researching. One interesting element, probably because of where I come, my personal experiences that I'm interested in is the extras who worked on the Tarzan film.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
what was
wow.
that like? In the Depression, they would hire hundreds of black actors, and they would play the natives. And, today, the Tarzan films, they're not politically correct. People say they haven't aged well. But what are the stories of these folks? I'm always interested in human stories.
And the thing is, you'll look in those crowds and you'll see actors, you recognize faces, and you go, "This guy went on to be." I think one of them was the father in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and I can't remember which if that's what it was, or maybe I've gotten confused with another actor. But you go, "Oh my gosh, this guy is went on to do some really important
You're
stuff."
You're right, and his name eludes me. He was in there. There were a lot of
father who,
and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner?
Not Tracy Spencer. No.
No, not Spencer Tracy.
Spencer Tracy.
Sidney Poitier's father.
Yeah,
Sidney Poitier's father.
Yeah,
you're talking African American.
Yeah. So, but it's kind of amazing who you'll see in there, and like you said, probably has not aged as well, but the stories of those folks would be fascinating.
Yeah, and they're just their own arc. Juanita Moore, who was Oscar nominated.
Yeah.
She started out in the Tarzan film. So many of these people, because you start out in Hollywood, most people start out doing background work, and they don't want to admit it.
Right.
Nobody wants to say I was an extra running around in the background of 90210.
Yeah.
But they did it.
Roy Glenn was his name.
Okay.
Yeah. Roy Glenn. He was on the Ely. Yeah.
Yes.
Ely series. Yeah.
Sounds like a documentary we should collaborate on, because that'd be fascinating.
Maybe.
So a buddy of mine did a documentary. He was the principal editor on 20 Feet from Stardom, which tracked the stories of the background vocalists in Motown.
Yeah, that's a great documentary.
It's a great documentary. So those stories are always fascinating. So.
And a number of Mississippians, that's a particular area of interest is what Mississippians were in the Tarzan films.
Yeah.
And, James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
He was in a couple of episodes. Ernie Terrell, the heavyweight boxer.
Oh, sure.
Was on the Ron Ely series. So a lot of native-born Mississippians, maybe 12 or 15.
Wow, that's cool. I had no idea.
And we're sitting 3 feet from Stardom.
3 feet. So what about your books? I know you've mentioned this on the previous one, Tracy, but you have 2 out, and then are they? I want to say you said one was out of print, maybe. So just tell us about your 2 books that are out there now that anybody might want to try to find.
Okay, thanks. Tarzan: The Centennial Celebration was the first. It came out in 2012 to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of the character. And it covers everything from the pulp origins, the pulp magazines, the novels, the comic books, the comic strips, the TV shows, radio shows, films, just everything, merchandising, licensing, and
a lot of incredible artwork in there.
Yeah, I was privileged to be published by Titan, and they're sort of the go-to people on a lot of these making of film books and stuff, coffee table books. Titan was just really starting to blow up when they contracted me to do this, and now it's like I have so many Titan books in my library, and they were happy enough. I went back and I pitched John Carter, to do John Carter and the rest of the series, Venus, Pellucidar. I wanted to do everything else, give it that same treatment, and they said, well, the John Carter movie didn't do too well. How about a Tarzan film book? There hasn't been one since Gabe Besso, really, or Dave Fury. So I said, great. I went home. I met the president, the owner of Titan in Las Vegas at a trade show. Went home, I wrote up the proposal. It was on his desk when he got back to England. And so we did Tarzan on film. That came out in 2016 with the movie The Legend of Tarzan. Generally, they like to tie these big, splashy coffee table books in with an anniversary or a film release. Yeah. So you really need sort of that cross-promotion selling.
And that would have been, a year or 2 earlier than the 100th anniversary of the silent film, the first silent film?
That was 2018, right.
Okay, so they would have been right around the same time.
Yeah, and my primary platform is Facebook. So if you follow me or follow my book, Tarzan on Film, I'm still promoting. We're still selling. The book's still selling well on Amazon. Centennial Celebration sold out. It is out of print. So you'll have to go to an aftermarket.
Oh, no, you can buy a copy on Amazon for $487.48.
Yes, I wish I had a couple hundred of those.
Yeah, that's right.
I'd have a proxy selling them on Amazon. It's funny, I bought about 100 of them, and because that was my idea, was to stock up before it goes out of print. So I bought about 100, and the next thing I know, it goes out of print. I'd asked them to tell me. But I've sold most of those hundreds, so I'm down to just a few copies.
There's a used copy of the slipcase edition, signed by you, for $60.
Okay, that's a deal.
That is a deal. Yeah. So
I have both of the books, and I need to bring them up here. I think I may have brought them before, but I'll bring them up here.
I wouldn't let Jake get close to them.
Yeah, that's right. Where did my book go?
Yeah, he might knock you out. I mean, he already stole my Regrettable Heroes book.
Yeah,
so.
they're incredible books, and like I said, just beautifully done. Both in terms of what you did and what the publisher did too. Just really, really good books.
Thank you. Yeah, I was really happy with the way they turned out. And, they were great to work with. They did not, I would say 95 to 98% of what's in there is what I intended to be in there.
That's great.
They didn't have a heavy hand with the editing, and I was happy for that.
Wow. Very nice. Very nice. Tracy, thank you for joining us. Thanks for coming back when I was here this time.
It was great to meet you.
He won't make that mistake again.
Yeah, he won't make that mistake again. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time around.
Thank you.